He's back!
Wait, who?
Oh, who do you think?
Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
Hot take?
It seems like only yesterday that we were talking about Soulja Boy and his fleet of knockoff video game consoles.
That's right, and we were very much looking forward to a 2019 filled to the brim with possibly illegal ROMs on devices. And I guess things have happened, right?
Yeah.
Because we haven't spoken about Soulja Boy in a bit. The devices were taken off his website. He said it's time to like boss up.
Yeah.
And that's all he tweeted, and then magically his consoles disappeared from his website.
Now, there were a lot of people that contacted us saying that you caused this, and we don't know that for certain. However, we happen to own every single system he was selling, so we knew a lot about them. We knew that there was knockoff games on them. On his website, he stated that there were knockoff games built into them, or at least a selection of games built in.
Yep.
So we knew what those systems were. We've used them before. We reviewed them. And our latest video of Worst Ever on the Rerez channel featured everything we knew about the console, went into a lot of depth over everything you could find in the systems, so it was a big deal.
Yeah.
All those systems, every single one, pulled off his website. You can't buy them anymore. We don't know if people are getting refunds for their orders or if they're actually being sent out the units that were ordered. We really don't know.
I would hope that there's some sort of a refund thing going on right now, because as in Soulja Boy's own words, he sold about 5 million consoles. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, $5 million worth of consoles, was it?
That's what I thought at first. I looked into it again. He said 5 million units.
Okay.
Consoles. So some people, it's rumored, we're talking about how, well, you were talking about how there could be some illegal ROMs on those systems based on the previous models that we had played.
Yes.
So people were speculating that Nintendo did actually go after Soulja Boy for these consoles that he was going to be releasing before they could hit the market because of, the Nintendo games that were on them. So yeah, that was the speculation. That's why they were off. The Nintendo came calling and Soulja Boy had to boss up.
And yeah, I mean, that's just the way it has to go, right? You sell something illegal, people come at you, and that's what happens. Now, with all that
what's going on?
And done,
what's going on now?
Remember, he said he sold a lot of these things, or he made a lot of money from them.
5 million units?
If I were him, I would make a new console, and that's exactly what he did. Folks, well, buy to resell. It doesn't even matter. All we know is that at this current moment, while all the other consoles that he was previously selling are gone, we now have a brand new Soulja game handheld.
Yeah. So when you say brand new, I immediately think of something that's completely fresh.
Yes.
In name alone, this isn't brand new, right? Because he did have a Soulja game handheld previously.
Yep.
Didn't he?
Yes.
I mean, the Soulja game branding has been so bizarre.
Yes.
There's like Soulja game handheld. There's like Soulja game console. Soulja game fuse.
Yep.
Soulja game blah, 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 blah.
And this system, I actually know what it is. We have taken a look at a lot of knockoff systems on our show in the past, and I've personally looked into a bunch that we've never actually covered because I didn't think there was enough there to cover. This is one of those systems that I have seen time and time again. However, in this one specific instance, we believe that what he's actually selling, according to not only the listing on his website, but prior information I've seen from the system as well, you might be seeing something that is more akin to a media player and may not actually have any games on there. Now, what we think he is doing is he is purchasing these from a large bulk order from
AliExpress.
Yeah. Now, in AliExpress, if you get it directly from the manufacturer and you buy enough of these things, you could also do customized orders where you can basically get customized versions of a piece of hardware. In this instance, he might have said, look, I want the media capabilities, I want the emulators, I want all that stuff, but I don't want the ROMs, I don't want the ISOs, I don't want anything that is illegal to be on there. And they can do that. Right. So what I think he is selling is a system that doesn't actually have any games on it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Shane. And on AliExpress, the units, I think it's called the X1, is that correct? The X1 handheld. The units that they're selling on AliExpress in the title of the name, it says that it supports games, specifically only one system. It says it supports GBA games. It doesn't say that the games are actually on the system, which differs from what Soulja Boy was selling on his website before.
Yeah.
Whereas like, 801 or like hundreds or thousands of games. So this isn't saying that there's games on the unit. And I believe if Nintendo did come calling to Soulja Boy, he was probably thinking this, like, hey, look, I got a lot of press, a lot of media attention for these prior consoles. I can't have these illegal ROMs on a unit and sell them in North America. And so maybe this is his way of bypassing that.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, this system I have seen time and time again. In fact, I've talked to other YouTubers about this who have actually explained certain situations where they've purchased these things and they didn't work. Spawnwave, who's got this great channel, he actually sent me a message to go, I bought one of these, and when it came in, it didn't turn on, so I couldn't use it. Oops. I mean, it happens, right? Some of these systems are made very cheaply. Now, let's talk about the hardware here first off. What we're looking at is essentially a PlayStation Vita clone system.
Right. But I believe it's PlayStation Vita in looks alone.
Oh, yeah.
This thing...
Not in quality.
Oh, yeah. Well, the margins on this thing, it's one thing I wanted to talk about. The quality can't be there, because if you want to pick these up, they're running for under, like between... It's like $27 to $30.
Yes.
Okay. So the margins on this thing are going to be incredible for Soulja Boy, whereas the other handhelds and systems that he was selling, the margins weren't as huge. But here he has them listed on his website for $200, on sale for $99.99, and yeah, it's. Like I said, it's like $60 are the margins, where before it was like less than that. The quality's not going to be there. You're not going to be buying a Vita. You can't even buy a Vita at a retro game swap for under what, like $70 or so?
And what you're expecting from a PlayStation Vita, do not expect that from this, okay? The hardware on here is severely limited. There was really good technology, games customized and designed specifically for the original Vita. You're not getting that with this. You're getting something that is essentially I don't want to say clumped together mess, but it totally was. Initially, when they were selling Vitas, they produced these systems so that they could basically kind of scam people on the market, thinking they were getting a Vita instead of actually getting one for real. The resolution on this thing.
Yeah.
Now, this is important.
Do you want the numbers?
Yes.
It's 480 by 272.
Now, they call that widescreen HD, but I assure you, that isn't HD. That's barely standard definition. It is not really what you want when you're thinking about getting a portable system that has a really good screen. On top of that, what you're dealing with in terms of buttons and joysticks. Now, we've never personally used one of these before, but I can assure you, having used devices like this in the past, rarely are they ever well made. They're not produced to last long. They're produced as very, very cheap parts because they're trying to get them out for the lowest possible price they can.
Yeah, that's right. If you're looking at a system that's $27, of course, it's you're not going to have the quality there. I mean, one of the initial specs says just material, plastic. There's going to be a lot of, I'm sure, iffy D-pads and buttons and those sticks. I mean, they're not going to feel anything like the Vita sticks, which are actually quite good.
Yes. I mean, that's something else, too, you have to keep in mind, right? When they talk about plastic and stuff like that, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but the PlayStation Vita is made of plastic. The 3DS
Some
made of plastic.
components, but there's some metal with the
There's
Vitas.
a lot of metal in those machines in order to keep them to such a degree that if they were to drop or whatever, they wouldn't break right away. In some instances, there's also really good machined parts inside of those systems that keep them stable and functioning over a long period of time.
Yeah.
You're not going to be getting that with this. Like, that's just not going to happen.
I really want to know, I want to go into Soulja Boy's head and figure out how he curates which handhelds he wants to put on his website, because if you scroll down on that AliExpress website, like, this isn't the only Vita replica that's on there, and some are even cheaper than this one. So I'm like, what's the method to the madness here? How does he say, like, that's it, that's the knockoff that I want to sell on my web page?
Yeah, honestly, I wish I could tell you. I have no idea.
There can't be that much thought going into this, because if you look at Soulja Boy's website, he just takes all of the all the description and all the features and just copies and pastes it onto his website, glaring horrible English and everything. We were looking at the screenshots for this thing earlier, and you're like, hey, pull up that screenshot there. There's literally a screenshot of this Vita knockoff. The game's upside down.
Yeah.
The game's upside down.
It's because the people that made it don't even care. But by the way, that game you're seeing on there, maybe you might be able to run Android games on here, right? The specific one he's selling could change here and there, but I very much doubt it's going to be able to run that specific game. If you're looking at Game Boy Advance type stuff, the best you're going to get in terms of 3D graphics is maybe Mario Kart. But I have seen these exact systems run Game Boy Advance games in the past, and folks, they run them at half the frame rate. This is something you're going to see that's typical with a lot of emulation systems that are portable, that are trying to kind of push above their weight. What happens is they can't run the games. So what they do is they cut around 50% of the frames from the animations of the games to make it look like it's going a little bit faster. But what that instead does is it kind of makes the game look choppy. But that's the only way they can make the game work. And you're going to see that a lot with a ton of games on here, I assume. We could be seeing something that's a little bit better.
Right.
Like I've said in the past while covering these systems, sometimes it's a specific processor or a chip that they got on bulk and they made a bunch of these, and then other times the actual device will change over time as they're shipping it out because everything inside of it is just drastically changing. Oh, we have this component. Well, the person doesn't care. Let's put in this component. So one person's experience on these things may be totally different than somebody else's. And I guarantee you, Soulja Boy probably doesn't know that what he's getting is going to be wildly different from one device to the next.
Yeah, I can't wait to see these going out into the wild and seeing the reviews pop up. And I do want to see if there's differences between them. Do you want to hear a little bit about the features themselves? Again, this is pulled directly from AliExpress and just placed right onto his website without any other thought. So features, exquisite craftsmanship and fashion design with a reasonable price.
Okay.
Built-in camera for photo shooting and video recording.
Yes.
Support TV output, can connect TV to play games and watch movies.
Sure.
I'm also kind of thinking that, that the screenshot that shows the racing game, they could sort of bypass that by saying, hey, that was just a trailer for a game playing using the multimedia player that's within this thing.
Sure.
But the resolution's going to be awful.
Yeah, well, the resolution...
It can't look anywhere near that good.
The image they showed on there, from what I could tell, looks like a high resolution than what the actual system's capable
well, absolutely.
But,
and they're saying it's an HD console, so there could be some legal issues there.
Sure.
Right? Support TV output, can connect TV to play games and watch movies. Okay. Support PC camera, connect to the computer, can use as computer camera. Webcam.
Yeah.
Soulja webcam.
Sure.
4.3 inch 16 by 9 HD screen. So 16 by 9 HD screen, can they say that if the resolution's that low?
No, they can't. They can say 16 by 9, but they can't
because it's an
say-
aspect ratio, of course.
Which, by the way, you don't want widescreen when you're playing certain games like Game Boy Advance games and stuff like that because you're just stretching the aspect ratio. If the system is capable of emulating games, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it can emulate PlayStation 2 games and below, which it won't be doing PlayStation 2 games. Let's just say it's around there. Technically, all those games were originally designed for 4x3 screens, so you're probably going to see a lot of issues when it comes to having these games stretched out. Or, in some instances, if you can't have those options, the game will just be shorted down into a 4x3 image, meaning the screen's actual resolution and the actual real estate is a lot smaller than you would typically think.
Right.
Most people don't realize that, but we've done a lot of these systems, so we know what it's like.
So you're going to be dealing with black bars, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Lastly, multi-thread task mode. You can listen to music while watching ebooks.
See, that's a question there. I've actually had friends point out this one to me. You read ebooks. You don't really watch ebooks. Multitasking with these devices usually does work, but you're at a point where you really have to think about the resolution of the screen. Mm-hmm. Do you want to be reading ebooks on a screen resolution that small? And with MP3 functionality, I assume, would you just use your phone? I mean, the majority of people out there that would want one of these probably already have a phone. Considering the cost of this thing, it is $100. You could be getting another device out there that could be way better that does a lot more than this.
Yeah, well, let's just say this flat out. If you did want to pick this up, don't pick it up for $100. If you want to pick this up for some reason, go to AliExpress. And at their price point, which is $30, like... being able to multitask, is the processing power there for $30? Even for like an ebook, an MP3 to be playing at the same time?
In my experience, sometimes they are. It really depends on how they design it. Usually, though, it will break when it's reading an ebook, or it will break when it's reading an MP3. If the hardware is old enough, it doesn't have the current like abilities to run modern versions of audio files. So what you'll get is staticky audio, you'll get very bad audio, uncompression artifacts. You'll get a whole bunch of issues that you typically wouldn't have just using any other device that might be around that price range that has gone through like FCC approval and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a little more that I can dig into.
Okay, do it.
I was noticing, now that you mentioned audio, you know how on the Vita, on the back, there's the grooves for your hands to kind of rest in there? Yeah. It looks like the grooves on the back of this one has speakers in them, as well as front-facing speakers. And that's one of the things in the description. Stereo sound.
Could also be ventilation.
Yeah, you're right, it could. It could be ventilation.
It really depends, folks.
Yeah.
You don't know what these are like.
So in the description, it mentions some more of the functionality of the system. Stereo sound speakers give you different auditory experiences.
Well, okay.
Supports JPEG, BMP, GIF or GIF, TIFF, PNG image format.
You can say PNG twice?
BMG.
No. Oh, bitmap. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, okay. But, like... I don't know anyone that this is a bulk feature set, right? So you're going to see it does a lot of these things, but you're not buying this to look at images, not on the screen especially. You'd want a different kind of screen. But...
Yeah, this is the Soulja game handheld. They're listing off a ton of things that are multimedia experiences. Yeah. What about the games? They don't say anything about games, and I don't think they should be, because they shouldn't be including any games if they can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Now,
just sneak on by.
And now let's just say something about the legality of this thing, okay? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that are thinking that Sony's going to sue Soulja Boy or whatever. As long as there are no pre-built-in games on this device, as long as the software that is on the device can be sourced to some degree. Typically what happens when it comes to Chinese developed consoles, you see a lot of open source elements used, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with using open source stuff. There can be problems with actually selling a device with open source things included, but that's kind of a weird thing. I don't even think Soulja Boy would get in trouble for that, because most people that would actually be making this software usually don't have enough money to sue somebody. Like they're making it for themselves or for others, and they're not trying to make money from the software itself. Now, with that in mind, the games that would be included on here, if there are included, that's where you have your issues. But a lot of people out there saw this device and went, that's just a Vita. Sony can sue them because it's a Vita-looking device. Well, not really. It's kind of strange, but there's been years and years of these devices being sold again and again and again. Typically when they come directly from China, from Shenzhen, from any area in that region, people usually don't sue those companies because it's a regional thing. Usually you don't have someone selling them directly in North America that is like being very like loud about it, right?
Usually there's that wall between, the countries, basically, where the legality is like a gray area.
Yes. Yeah. Now, again, we're not lawyers. Let me make that super clear. If Sony did see that there was enough of a resemblance of their own device, or there was a specific design choices that were made that were unique to Sony's patents or whatever, they could technically go after Soulja Boy if they really wanted to. However, I don't believe that's going to happen. This is not... It's just not even close to the Vita. He's not calling it a Vita. There's no Sony branding on it. As far as I know, there's no Sony software on it, and all the internals on there are completely different. You have to patent the actual design and look of everything. That is a thing that people have done in the past, but the actual design of the Vita is so like... It's kind of just it's literally a screen with buttons on the side.
The Vita has its functionality is very broad, right? Yes. You have a touch screen on the front, you have a touch screen on the back. The functionality, many of the things that are with the Vita, none of that is being announced as being a part of this unit. So it is very much in looks alone. And if it wanted that functionality, the price point would not be as low as it is. So it's like it is just... It is a plastic case that looks like a Vita, so
it can't play PS Vita games. It does. We don't think it has a touchscreen.
No, they would have. I'm sure that would have been that would have been a bullet point.
It can run JPEGs
in horrible English. It would have been
no touchscreen on the front, no touchscreen on the back, no motion controls, no 3D graphics processor. Like they're not saying anything that could confuse people into thinking they're actually buying a Vita. That's the kind of thing there. It doesn't like Sony could do it, and they probably would if they felt that this guy was selling a bunch of them.
I'm sure there is some precedent there for them to go after Soulja Boy for just the look of the console itself. I don't know if they would go out of their way, because it is like, I don't know.
He could just be a reseller. Yeah. Like he himself is a reseller of a reseller at this point. So he's reselling something that he's purchased in bulk order. I don't think Sony's ever going to care about this. I don't think that they want to. I don't think they want to give this attention. It's the same reason why when all the other systems got pulled, we didn't hear officially from Nintendo that they were involved in that. For all we know, Nintendo wasn't involved. For all we know, it was just one of Soulja Boy's lawyers went, "Wow, stop." And that's all it could have taken, right? This is basically a really confusing tactic, because if some company wants to go after Soulja Boy, they can kind of make themselves look like the evil villain, right? And that's a big problem. Yeah. I think what we're seeing here is just a media player that has some emulators on it. Yep. I don't think a lot of people are going to like it. I think when people pick it up, they're going to be very upset about it. If we can find one, we will surely do a video on it. However, it's just a device I've seen a billion times before that I don't think people really care about enough. But maybe that might change in the future. For now, though, what do you think of this console? Do you think this is the right move for Soulja Boy, or do you believe he just shouldn't be making consoles at all?
Absolutely. Do you think that his first push run of consoles was somehow a smart marketing tactic? The stupidity of possibly having illegal ROMs on a unit just got him so much recognition, or maybe not recognition, negative notoriety?
I really don't know. Like, honestly, I think I said this before in the video that we had produced. If he just bought a bunch of Switches and like sold them for $100 more and put his name on them, he'd probably have a better. Well, I mean, it's you can just put a sticker on it and say the Soulja Boy Switch or whatever, or make a customized one. I know it's going to cost a little bit more to do that, but he could do that, and it has the same issues as this one. Only you're still buying a real Nintendo product. This is not a real product from any of the major manufacturers. It's very difficult to find out who the actual manufacturer is, and that's exactly why this can be an issue in the future. But for now, it is what it is. I don't think it's that interesting, but let us know if you think it is, because we'd love to hear why you think you'd want to buy one of these.